All right, today we're going to look at something called a cube root. We're going to take this cube here, and let's say I know that this cube happens to have a volume of 100, so my volume is equal to 125 cubic inches. All right, let's say it's 125 cubic inches, or another way to write that would be 125 inches cubed. So what I want to find out now is the dimensions of this cube. What's my length, width, and my height of this cube? Well, when we take this here and we have this cube here, we want to get rid of that and just find what the length of the dimensions are. Since it's a cube, all three of these measurements are exactly the same. So what I know that the volume is 125 and the three dimensions are exactly the same, and I get the volume by multiplying. So I ask myself, what times what gives me 125? And that would be 5. 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. So what we're doing here when we do cube roots is we're actually going backwards. We're not saying, I know that this cube has a dimension of 5 by 5 by 5, and the volume is 125. I'm given the volume of 125, and I want to find out what the individual dimensions are. And when we want to try to find the cube root, there is a symbol that we use. We do use a radical sign as seen in square roots, but is it a square root or a cube root? We know it's a cube root with one specific thing. It has the number 3. So we call this a cube root. And when we see something written like this, the cube root of 125, that simply asks what times itself will give me 125. And we just discussed it, that's the number 5. So 5 is a cube root of 125. And so if we look at it again, and let's say we have a different volume of a cube, let's say the volume of the cube here happens to be 8 cubic centimeters. I know this isn't a volume of 8 cubic centimeters, but let's pretend that it is. So if it's 8 cubic centimeters, or written centimeters cubed, how can I find out what those dimensions are? We can take the cube root of the number 8, which simply asks what times itself 3 times will give me 8, and that happens to be 2 times 2 times 2. So 2 is a cube root of 8. Now if we work backwards, we can say 2 cubed is equal to 2 times 2 times 2, and that equals 8. So this way here, when we have our cube root, we want to break it into those smaller individual equal pieces. But when we cube it, we actually want to multiply that number 3 times and get our volume in this case.